Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Amanda and this is my vlog about my late diagnosed autistic and ADHD journey. I also have aphantasia and a memory disorder called SDAM that stands for severely deficient autobiographical memory, and I talk about all these on this channel. Today I'm going to be talking about fake claiming. So what fake claiming is when somebody approaches a disabled person, whether it is in person or online, and tries to tell them that they don't have the disability that they say that they have. This is harmful because it can cause a lot of anxiety for disabled people, and it also can cause them to not feel comfortable to disclose their disability in situations where it's important for them to do so. For instance, there's a lot of people who need the disabled parking spot, but they don't have a visible disability. And some disabled people are reluctant to use that spot, even though they have a disability placard and they are actually disabled, because they never know when that person is going to start filming them and harassing them, because it happens so often. You cannot look at somebody and judge whether or not they have a disability. Now, for autism circles, there are a lot of late diagnosed women such as myself who are getting fake claimed online. And this happens because we don't match the media's representation of the stereotype of what autism should look like. I have gotten fake claimed a couple of different times because people will say that I don't look, sound, or act autistic. I'm laughing just because autism doesn't have a look. It goes across every single age, gender, and race. Stereotypically, a lot of autistic people are thought to be either, and I talk about this in the why media representation is important video, but autistic people are either seen to be like savants, and usually they are male when they're depicted in media, and they are in professions like engineering, mathematics, science. But this is just not true. Savantism isn't actually that common in autism. A lot of autistic people will have a very focused special interest and become pretty smart on that subject, but that isn't always the case. And a lot of autistic people, such as myself, have many special interests. So my focus is spread over lots of different topics, and I don't really have a ton of knowledge specifically in any one area. And some autistic people, that's just not how their brain works, and they don't have to be really smart in any specific area. The other pendulum is that the media, or the stereotype of autism, is somebody who is just level 3 or level 2 autistic with very high support needs. And so when somebody meets somebody who appears fairly average, then they think that this person, like myself, isn't autistic. When autism was first studied, it was only studied in white males, and it was studied as a behavioral disorder. So again, I am not a medical professional. This is just my current new special interest, and so I've done lots of research on it, and this is my current understanding. So basically what the researchers would do is they would see these individuals, again, usually white males, and watch them and how they interacted with different stimuli. And then they would write these down as deficits. That's why it's called autism spectrum disorder. And it is, and like a lot of other things in the DSM-5, it is measured by deficits. Even though autistic people often have many strengths, our disorder is diagnosed by its deficits. We have social deficits, we have communication deficits, we have behavioral deficits sometimes. So many people like me who have an internal presentation of autism were not getting diagnosed. So because we would internalize our symptoms instead of externalize them where they were observable behaviors. So an example is when I would go into, let's say, an arcade, like there's a really popular one here in the United States called Dave & Buster's. When I would walk in there before my diagnosis, before I was aware of any of this, while I was still masked, I would be trying to fit in, because when you're an undiagnosed, low support needs autistic person, most of the time, most of us, myself definitely included, we spent the majority of our time trying to appear neurotypical. We were always trying to fit in. So I'd go to these loud arcades, even though I didn't really like them. There are aspects of it, like I like the skee-ball machine, but man, I would really prefer the skee-ball machine if it was in a quiet room. The whole experience of the loud Dave & Buster's, I never understood why that was enjoyable for anyone. Now I understand it's because, oh, Magic's going behind the camera. Now I understand because for a neurotypical brain, the environment isn't overstimulating. But I would walk into a Dave & Buster's, and we would have what I like to call, a lot of autistics have something what I call a window of tolerance. So that's going to depend on like how overstimulated you already are that day, what your energy level is, how you're feeling. It's dynamic. It's not going to be the same day to day. But I'd walk into a Dave & Buster's and, okay, I'm sorry, my kitty cat wants water. Magic, do you need me to fill up your water bowl? I keep a little water bowl on my desk. Let me go get her some water. Now she's going to pretend she doesn't want it. So I walk into a Dave & Buster's, and my window of tolerance was probably close to around maybe 10 minutes before all of the lights and the buzzing and the beeping and worrying and all the people talking and laughing and cheering would just really start to get to me. And what would happen is I kind of, what I'm assuming would be sort of a dissociation type of situation where my brain would take all that outside stimulation and tunnel focus into my immediate environment. And I'd get kind of small, I'd get kind of quiet. And those are the times when I'd get labeled as shy. Oh, Amanda, why aren't you playing this game? Why are you not joining? Why are you not trying to figure this out? Like I would play skee ball and that was it. Any other game, because I'm already so overwhelmed by the environment, I didn't want to learn any of the other arcade games because that was just too much. And I would just tell people, no, it's fine. I'm just watching today. I don't want to play. And it's not that I didn't want to play. It was that I was so overstimulated. I was doing my best to be able to just function in that environment. Now that I know that I'm autistic, if I did decide to go to a Dave & Buster's, I would definitely be bringing my earplugs. I would make sure that I have recovery time after being able to, like, going to that place. And I would also, when I do go to arcades now, I try to schedule them on times of the day or days of the week that aren't very busy. Like if they open at 11 on a Sunday, then that's where I'm going to go because I know that's probably going to be the least busy time. And so I'm going to minimize the amount of noise because there'll be less people, even though the machines and everything will still be loud. But some autistic people, their window of tolerance is going to be a lot lower. They're going to walk into an environment like that. It's going to be so overstimulating. They would put their hands over their head. They might cover up their eyes because of all the bright lights. Those are observable behaviors. So those people would get those people get diagnosed autistic, where I internalized my responses to the stimulation and got labeled things like shy. Now, but that doesn't mean that we aren't both diagnosed. That doesn't mean that we aren't both autistic. We are just responding differently. Fake claiming is also very harmful. It causes a lot of anxiety because many people just want to be themselves online. They don't want to have to hide their invisible disability. Not everybody is an advocate about their disability like myself, and they shouldn't have to be. But if they wanted to mention, oh, I do this way because of my disability, they should be able to do that without people saying, you don't look disabled, you don't have that disability. I have a cousin's sister's brother's aunt who has that disability and they don't look like you. No two people with disabilities look the same. And not even just autism, like people who are blind, that's a spectrum. Like there are people who, my friend who is 100% blind, who cannot see light perception at all. She lives in complete darkness, but she has taught herself how to film, and she does YouTube and TikToks also. She literally will get fake claimed. People will say, you can't film because you're blind. Well, she taught herself how to do it. Blind people can learn things just like sighted, like it's ridiculous. Like she shouldn't have to prove her blindness when she's trying to just live her life. And same thing with deaf people. I mean, like any disability. And the thing about it is, as an autistic person with low support needs, I get no resources. There's no resources out here for me. I wish there were some resources. I could make a list of different resources that would really benefit me because I actually have a legit disability that is protected by the ADA, Americans Disability Act. But there aren't any supports for me. Anything that I accommodate for myself is something that my family has to pay for and accommodate ourselves. And I'm in a privileged place to be able to do that. My spouse makes enough money that we've been able to do some accommodations for me that have been extremely helpful this last year. Because when I reached an autistic burnout, I got to a place where it was like I needed to start changing my lifestyle because it was at a point where I was pushing so much that I was causing, mental health damage to my brain. I talk about that in the skill regression video. For people with high support needs, there are more resources available, but they actually have a actual medical diagnosis to be able to get those resources. I have a medical diagnosis. It's frustrating because I do feel that self-diagnosis with autism is valid because it is not accessible for everybody. There are so many doctors out there who still will deny that high masking autistic women and even men exist, especially if you are in the BIPOC communities. Some insurances, you have to get a referral, and when they go to their doctor who is not specializing in autism and they are working off old stereotypes, the doctor will say, well, you can make eye contact. Well, yes, that's what masking is. We've learned how to fake it until we make it. That doesn't mean that we're not autistic. And the doctors will deny the referral and the person cannot even get evaluated. My insurance didn't make me go through a doctor. I was able to call the psychologist up directly. My psychologist is actually autistic. He understands and knows what to look for. So I was really privileged and lucky. But if there were services that I was eligible for, you would have to have an official diagnosis. So fake claiming people literally does nothing. It doesn't do anything. So it's just another way to troll people, either in person or online. So don't do it. Ironically, I feel like I'm more masked in this video than I have been of late. But again, the fake claiming causes anxiety. It triggers your brain and puts you into a state of distress. You try to not let comments bother you and get to you, but they do, because I'm human. But low support needs autistic people are not taking resources away from high support needs. That's just a fallacy. Across the board, we need more support, but nobody's taking somebody else's resources. And I can't speak for all autistic people. I've never attempted to speak for all autistic people. I am one autistic voice trying to share my lived experience because I find it's very important to advocate and bring awareness and hope for acceptance for autistic people. And because a lot of the symptoms and the experiences that autistic people feel are similar, I might be able to give a voice to a family member of an autistic person who is having a harder time communicating. Now, keep in mind, a lot of the sensory experiences are vastly different. The other day I did a fun poll on Threads and I said, are you an autistic person who likes socks or not socks? Like, it's a very divisive situation. Autistic people, it's very few people who are ambivalent towards socks. There are autistic people who are like, I have to have socks on all the time. I'm one of them. There are some autistic people who are like, socks are horrible sensory issue. I will never have socks. I have to be barefoot. But some autistic kids will feel this, but not be able to explain it to their parent the way that I can. And I'm not trying to speak for them, but I'm just trying to give you a nugget of a way to kind of maybe look at a situation. Like if your kid, with this example, is having meltdowns every time socks are involved, then let's have a conversation and I can maybe point to some of the sensory issues that I have, and then you can maybe work it out and with your kid. I don't want to be their voice, but I want to help bring awareness to some of the things that they might be experiencing. I try to be as authentic and transparent as I can on this vlog. That is something that is one of my core values, and it's something that I'm going to strive to always continue to be. A lot of people honestly aren't used to people who are as honest and authentic as me. It is one of the common autistic traits that autistic people lean towards honesty. And I definitely have that in spades. But I get that, I get distrust from people quite often because they're not used to that. They're not used to somebody who operates from a place of honesty, transparency, and authenticity. People are always expecting people to have a ulterior motive, and they don't understand when someone says my ulterior motive is plain. It is to bring awareness and acceptance to all disabled people. That is my ulterior motive, and to share my lived experience as a late diagnosed autistic person. I've demonstrated many times on this channel that I am open to answering any and all respectful questions, and I will continue to do that because it is something I'm very passionate about. And with that, I'm going to end this video. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate everyone who supports me because honestly, the number of people who support me in this venture to bring disability awareness 100,000% outweigh the negativity that I get on this channel, on the trolls. But I bring this up because I know full well that the autistic and ADHD and other disabled people in my audience are also dealing with fake claiming, and it is harmful and it's stressful and it needs to stop. So thank you all guys for listening. Until the next one. Bye. Hi, Milo.